Sweetheart, if life kicks you in the rear, bounce higher and keep dancing. That was the very first thing my grandma told me the night I moved back into her home in Willow Creek, Georgia, a sleepy southern town where the fire hydrants are painted pink, the mayor doubles as the local plumber, and everyone knows which church you should go to on Sunday, and which one you really go to. To be honest, I hadn't planned on coming back. My career had been headed towards something big, at least I thought it was. But after my marketing firm folded overnight, my lease expired, and my girlfriend of 4 years decided she needed to explore van life with a bass guitarist, I was left with 2 duffel bags, a bruised ego, and no rent money. So, I returned to the house where I'd spent countless childhood summers, eating peach cobbler, chasing fireflies, and dodging my grandma's wooden spoon when I sassed her too hard. That house hadn't changed much. It still had creaky floors, lace curtains, and a front porch that dipped slightly to the left. But Grandma Helen? Oh, she had evolved. At 80, she was a force of nature in orthopedic sneakers. She wore bright scarves, drove a cherry-red Mustang convertible, and once made local news for chasing a raccoon off her property with a broom and a bottle of Tabasco. Her idea of relaxation was playing poker every Thursday with the Silver Scandals, a crew of sassy seniors who talk smack louder than any football team I've known. You know, she said that first morning over pancakes, this room hasn't seen a warm body since your Uncle Carl tried to start his glow-in-the-dark fireworks business. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't that end with a visit from the fire department? 4 fire trucks, 1 news van, and a very angry llama from next door, she replied. Buttering her toast like this was a perfectly normal recollection. I tried to find comfort in the quiet town routine, reading on the porch, helping mow the lawn, applying for jobs. But I felt restless, stuck between who I was and who I thought I should have been by now. I guess Grandma sensed it, which is probably why she dropped the bombshell. We're reviving the Love Bus, she announced out of nowhere, flipping a pancake like she was launching a NASA satellite. I blinked. I'm sorry, the what? The Love Bus, she said, grinning like a mischievous kid who just stole candy. Back in the 60s and 70s, it was the way to meet someone. We'd hop on an old city bus, drive around town, chat with whoever sat next to us, and get off if we hit it off. It was sweet, spontaneous, and wildly unregulated. So romantic. I took a moment to digest this. You're telling me you used to date via public transportation? For love and adventure, yes. For reliable routes, absolutely not. I laughed, but she was serious. She wanted to bring it back. Not just for nostalgia, but for real. For her and her friends. For seniors who still had hope tucked away in wrinkled hearts. And guess who she wanted as her sidekick? Come on, she said. You're unemployed, charming, and not currently being chased by any raccoons. You're perfect. Thus began Operation Cupid Wheels. I got roped in as the logistics manager, part-time DJ, and reluctant photographer. What started as my personal pity party was slowly turning into something else, a glimpse into a world where love didn't expire at 60, or 70, or ever. I just didn't realize yet how personal that ride would become. There's something different in the way older folks talk about love. It's not flashy or poetic. It's quiet, earnest, like the way Grandma sipped her iced tea on the front porch, staring off toward the willow trees swaying along the edge of her yard. I met him on the 3rd ride, she said softly, a breeze tugging at her scarf. We were both sitting in the back. I pretended to hate root beer so he'd insist I try his. He did. Twice. I stopped scrolling through job listings on my phone. Him who? Marvin, she replied, her voice dipping into a tone I'd never heard before. He smelled like cedarwood and always wore a ridiculous hat that made him look like a magician's assistant. But that laugh of his? It was trouble. The good kind. I stared at her. You had a Marvin? Oh, honey, she chuckled. We all had a Marvin. She went on to tell me that Marvin was smart, spontaneous, and kissed her under the town's one functioning street lamp after their 3rd ride. But then, just as fast as he'd swept into her life, he left. Got a job offer in Chicago. Promised he'd write. And he did once. That bus broke down a week after he left, she added, her voice growing distant. Caught fire outside Betty Carson's salon. We took it as a sign and let the whole thing go. She didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. But something about the way her fingers clutched the glass told me she never really let him go. Not fully. It was then I understood. The love bus wasn't just a cute retro idea. It was a second chance. For her. For all of them. The next few days blurred into action. Grandma called half the town. I designed flyers with phrases like, "Love has no expiration date," and "Hop on." Hearts open. Grandma hosted a heart readiness workshop in her backyard. There were name tag trials, cologne debates, and one heated argument over whether Sinatra or Smokey Robinson was the better mood setter. Someone even suggested a sensual Zumba warm-up. That was quickly vetoed. The Willow Creek seniors showed up in full force. Glitter. Hair dye. Cologne so strong it made my eyes water. They weren't just excited, they were alive. Even I started feeling different. Hope crept into me too, like maybe being 30 and broke wasn't the end of something, but the pause before something unexpected. We still had one problem though, the actual bus. The town's last school bus had been retired in 2011 and turned into a chicken coop. Our only option? A party bus from Athens, run by a college kid named Lance who, when asked if he'd ever driven a senior group before, replied, "Define senior." Grandma booked him on the spot. As we finalized details, I caught her one night staring at the mirror longer than usual. "You okay?" I asked. She turned to me with a look so young, I barely recognized it. "Do you think," she whispered, "he'll remember me?" I didn't know who he was. Not for sure. But I knew what to say. "If he has any sense left in his brain, he's never forgotten you." She smiled. And for the first time, I realized the love bus wasn't just a reunion of old friends. It was a journey back to a moment in time, unfinished, unspoken. And maybe, just maybe, not too late. The day of the big event arrived with a kind of slow, golden anticipation you only find in small-town Georgia. The sun cast a warm glaze over Willow Creek, making the town look like it had been dipped in honey. A gentle breeze carried the scent of magnolias through the air, mingled with the unmistakable aroma of Grandma's homemade shortbread cooling on the windowsill. I stood outside the Willow Creek Community Center, watching the parking lot transform into something magical. There were folding tables draped in pink gingham. Heart-shaped balloons bobbed against a cloudless sky. Volunteers set up lawn chairs and a karaoke machine that immediately began skipping between Elvis and accidental Spanish salsa. And right at the center of it all was the main attraction, the Love Bus 2.0. It was not what I expected. Instead of a vintage city bus, we had a rented party bus from Athens decked out in LED lights, a mirror ball, and a disco floor that throbbed when the bass dropped. Lance, our 20-something driver with a backwards cap and earbuds in one ear, gave me a thumbs up and a smile that said I definitely wasn't trained for this. I shrugged. Just don't hit anything old. Which is everything. The guests began arriving, one by one, dressed to impress and brimming with nervous energy. Carlene wore a feathered hat the size of a hawk. Mr. Jenkins strutted in wearing a powder blue tux that he claimed was original Elvis. Edna showed up in leopard print and glitter heels, carrying a fan with her name rhinestoned across it. A woman named Marjorie passed around chocolate hearts she'd shaped by hand, and someone's hearing aid picked up a police scanner for the second time that week. It was chaos. Beautiful, wholesome chaos. Inside the bus, name tags were handed out along with root beer candies and breath mints. Each seat had a printed conversation starter taped to the back. What song would be the soundtrack to your life? Have you ever kissed someone in the rain? What's something you still want to try even now? The silver scandals giggled like teenagers. Someone shouted for music. Lance hesitantly queued up, "Ain't No Mountain High Enough." And just like that, the love bus pulled out of the lot, filled with music, laughter, and the unshakable rustling of polyester. Then he appeared. We were just about to pass the corner gas station when a man stepped onto the curb, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers and squinting at the bus like it might be a mirage. Tall, silver hair, a leather jacket that had clearly seen stories. His eyes scanned the windows. "Marvin," I whispered. My grandmother, who had just been explaining to Carlene how to flirt without throwing out your hip, turned slowly. Her face went completely still. He stepped forward. "Is this where the love bus boards?" he asked, his voice raspy but warm. No one breathed. She stood up. "You're late," she said, but her voice was trembling. He smiled and lifted the bouquet. "Only took me 50 years to catch the right ride." Gasps. Giggles. A dramatic swoon from Edna. But Grandma didn't move. She stared at him like she was watching a ghost, one who remembered her favorite soda and the smell of June nights in 1969. Then she said softly, "Get on the bus before your knees change their mind." And Marvin did. He sat beside her in the back. Quietly, as if afraid that if he moved too fast, the whole thing might vanish. The ride was everything it needed to be. There were silly moments, like when two guests misheard each other and spent 10 minutes talking about cabbage, when the original question was about marriage. There was a group sing-along to the Supremes that made the driver slightly emotional. And there were whispers. Hushed words shared between people who thought their story had already been written. I glanced back at Grandma and Marvin. They weren't talking much, but they didn't need to. She handed him a root beer candy. He accepted it. Their hands brushed. And that was it. Sometimes love doesn't need fireworks. Sometimes it just needs one more ride. We pulled back into the community center parking lot as twilight painted the sky in lavender and amber. The lights from the bus reflected off the windows like fireflies, flickering with the kind of warmth only true connection can spark. Guests disembarked slowly, but not sluggishly. They stepped down with pep, with a glimmer in their eyes I hadn't seen before. Some exchanged numbers, others hugs. Harold and Dottie, neighbors for over a decade, walked off hand in hand, giggling like teenagers. Apparently, they'd spent the entire ride rediscovering their shared love for crossword puzzles and caramel popcorn. Edna attempted to tip Lance with a kiss. He politely declined, citing strict party bus protocol. I hovered near the exit, snapping a few last photos when Grandma and Marvin stood up. She looked glowing, not just from the LED lights or the warm flush of summer night, but something deeper, lighter. "I didn't think you'd actually come," she said to him as they reached the sidewalk. "I didn't either," he admitted. "I nearly turned around twice. Then I saw a poster at the grocery store and figured, if you're crazy enough to put that smile out into the world again, I better be brave enough to answer it." She smiled. "Still wearing that ridiculous jacket, huh?" "It's lucky now," he said, brushing a crease on the sleeve. "It brought me back to you." They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. He gently offered her the bouquet again. She accepted it. And in that exchange was everything: memory, regret, healing, hope. Then Marvin looked over at me. "You must be the grandson," he said. "Thanks for helping bring this back." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Thanks for showing up." As they walked off toward her house, together, Grandma glanced back over her shoulder. "You know," she called to me, "some things age like milk. But some age like root beer candy." I laughed. But as I watched them disappear into the golden haze of the streetlight, I understood something I hadn't before. This whole thing, this town, this bus, these wild, wonderful seniors, it wasn't about chasing youth. It was about claiming the moments that still belonged to them. It was about rewriting the ending, not because the first version was wrong, but because life gave them one more page. That night, I sat on the porch alone. A firefly landed on my knee. My phone buzzed with a job offer that had come in while I was too busy dancing with life to check. I didn't know what I'd do next. But I knew this much: love doesn't retire. It reroutes. Sometimes across decades. Sometimes through wildflowers and wobbly knees. And sometimes it boards a bus with disco lights and finds its way home.